Greetings creators, welcome to Cole's Mad Creations, where I tackle small decor to big builds and show you my mad twist on each project. Let's dive in. Today's project, my deck. Let's take a closer look at things. Well, you can definitely say it has character, that's for sure. It's got the death trap stairs, the Widowmaker railing, the troll. Now, although this is perfect for Halloween, it's not really the look I was going for the other 364 days of the year. Let's get down to the design work.
Now I know what you're thinking, I'm not a trained professional. And you're right. And then you're gonna think, can I really do this? Of course you can, that's what designing is all about. Starting with an idea and then building upon it. Just remember that safety always comes first. And the information provided in this video is for a guide and entertainment purposes only. So if you're unsure about anything, always check with a professional. Now let's get down to business. We'll start by installing the ledger board or the backboard. It's like the backbone of your deck, so you want to make sure that it's solid. I'm using pressure treated 2x6, and I'll attach this using ledger locks, which you'll see later on in the video. I will also attach a smaller ledger board off to the side right here because we're talking about a corner deck right here. Next up, I'm going to add in my band and rim joists, and this is to create the perimeter of the deck. At this point, I'm going to add in my joists, which are 16 on center, for my code in my area. I'm planning to do a picture frame top with water cascading stairs, which means I require extra blocking. I'm going to add in my posts, then I'm also going to add in some extra support here for my stairs for mounting. Now I'm going to add in blocking around each post. This is to make sure that they're fully secure from any movement. At this point, I'm going to introduce the ladder support system, which is used for picture frame tops. The width of your ladder support system will depend on the material that you're using. In this case, we're using a 1x6 and 1x4 to create the frame. I also want a 1/2 inch overhang finished. This means that the ladder support system needs to be big enough to support the 1x6 and 1x4 right to the edge of the next joist. So it's not at the edge of this joist, it's right before the edge of the joist. This means that the inlay will be fully supported on the ends. Next, stairs. And the first thing that you're going to need to know is your total rise. And that is from top of landing to top of landing. And in my case, it was from patio stone to top of deck, and it ended up being 28 3/4 for me. You're also going to need to know the thickness of your material. I'm using a 1x6 and a 1x4, but the true measurement of your material is actually 3/4 by 5.5 and 3/4 by 3.5. So always measure your material. And that should be what you should be using. Those measurements is what you should be using throughout your entire project. Also note that if you design your deck with a 1/2 inch overhang, your stairs will also require the same overhang. So just keep that in mind. Now you can do all of the math, or you can do what I did and I used a Stair calculator. And I plugged in all the information and it gave me my rise. My rise ended up being 7 3/16 and my run ended up being 11 inches with my overhang. I will show you how to lay out your stringers later on in the video without any special equipment. So no square gauges, nothing like that. So just keep that in mind. Next, I'm going to add in my post. Then I'm going to add in some solid blocking because I am planning on doing water cascading stairs. So it's kind of the same technique that I used for the ladder support system, but it's all about solid blocking. Then I'm going to add in my perimeter and then my inlay, and then you've got yourself a pair of water cascading stairs. Pushing on with the railings. So I'm going to start with the tops of my railings and I'm going to join them all together with some 2x4s. Then I'm going to do the same to the bottom. And you're going to want to start with your stairs first because you want to make sure that a 100mm sphere cannot pass through here. Again, check with your codes and requirements in your area. And then I just lined up the rest of my 2x4s as close as I could. Then I'm just going to add on the sides, which is kind of your choice on how you want it to look like. And then you're on to the infill. So in my area, it requires me to run vertical slats, and this is to prevent anyone from climbing on anything. But because I don't have little ones running around, I am comfortable with running horizontal wire. Now I could leave it there, or I could add in some extra detail, and I'm talking about skirting. So I think I'm definitely going to want skirting along here, and this is to cover up all the nails and screws and all of that kind of stuff. But I think I'm also going to bring it down. Normally it's installed in a vertical fashion, but I think a horizontal finish will be better for my design because it's very retro but modern at the same time. The last thing that I might attempt to do is actually install some LED lights. So make sure you keep a lookout for that and how that turns out.
I've got my area all prepped, but don't worry, I saved the best parts for you. Let's put these on the wall. This is where I'm going to start. I'm going to start off with my ledger board. Now before I install my ledger board onto my pre-prepped wall, I'm going to mark out my joist location on my ledger board and my rim board together to make sure that they're in the exact location and they're running perfectly perpendicular to the ledger board. Right? That's right. Here's the problem, trying to get the ledger board on there solo, and because I love to do things the hard way. To do that, I've rented this bad boy from Home Depot. This is an air nailer, and I'm going to use this to tack my ledger board into position first, and then I'm going to go in with my ledger locks and secure everything into position. Hopefully. That's what I'm going to do. That's the plan. That's what power feels like. I gotta get me one of those. I gotta justify it somehow. Now that I have my ledger board in place, I'm going to try and figure out my post height using a few tools. Once you're ready to figure out your post height, you're going to need a straight board or your post that's cut long. You're going to need a long straight board that's going to reach from your ledger board to your post. So this is where some acrobatics will come in handy. Look at that save. Put your level on top. Now you can move that board up and down till it's level. Grab your pencil, mark at the bottom of the board, and that should give you your total height. I would definitely do this a couple of times because I've been there. Now that you've got your total height figured out, you're going to have to do a little bit of math. Because I took my measurement from the top of the ledger board, I'm going to take my total height minus the width of my ledger board, minus the width of my beam, and that should give me my post height. Hopefully. The beam. I'm going to be using 3 of these 2x8s nailed together, but before I can nail them together, I need to find what's called the crown. Not the crown that you find on a queen's head, but the crown that you kind of find in the shape of a banana or a rainbow. Let's go find that. As you can see, there is a concave curve in the material. That's the crown, but it's facing down. That's a concave curve. We want it to be facing up, so I'm just going to flip this board. And now you can see that there's a curve in it like a rainbow. That's the crown. That's what you want up. You always want to build with your crown up. Before I get to nailing, I need to add a layer of PL. Then I'm going to clamp them all together with the crowns up. Then I'm going to get down to business of nailing. Anytime, I love to hear that ice cream song. I'm going to show you how I install joist hangers solo, or the way that I like to install them anyway. Grab your joist, grab a stopper block basically, place that on top of your joist, making sure that the joist crown is up. Then you can just grab your joist and it will just sit nicely on top of the ledger board, and you'll have 2 free hands to put your joist hanger on. Still making sure you're nice and tight on the bottom there. So that means you're nice and tight in the bottom of your hanger. And then finish screwing it off in every hole. Now I'm ready to attach my rim joist, but because I'm working solo, it's kind of difficult without an extra pair of hands. So the way I'm going to get around that is I'm going to use a scrap piece of wood attached to both ends, screw to the bottom of the joist. That way my rim joist will sit on top of the scrap piece of wood, and I've got both hands for nailing. I want to bring this side in. And I'm already having problems on that side getting the bottom ones in because it's so twisted. So I'm hoping, by the looks of it, it's working. I'm not too sure how I'm going to get that out to there just yet, because it's the right size. It's 42 3/8. So that will be interesting. You can see that it's not flush, even though the board is cut to the correct size. So it means I have to push that end board over quite a ways, like 1/4 of an inch. But I definitely can't move it over by hand, so I'm just trying to think if I use like a board and just kind of smack it in. There we go, it's moving-ish. Here we go. See, now it's nice and flush. Now that I've got my joist in location, I'm gonna add in my support blocking. This is gonna help create that ladder support system. If you remember in the beginning of the video, in the design process, that's gonna help support the top of the decking for that picture frame effect. And I'm also gonna add in some extra support blocking around my railing posts as well, if I've done everything right.
I'm starting off by tacking in my posts, and then I'm adding in blocking to fully secure them at the same time. I'm then carrying that blocking down the sides, and this is going to create that ladder support system as talked about earlier in the design phase. I swear this was the hardest part of the whole project, and that was getting in and out between the joists. Definitely a tight squeeze.
So I'm going to start with my last piece first for the top of the decking. And the reason for that is that I know I'm going to have to cut it down to make sure that all of my other pieces sit nicely inside of that frame that I'm creating, which is that picture framed effect. If you're doing a picture frame deck, 99% of people are going to have to cut their last piece down first, because you don't want to be cutting any of those pieces that inlay inside of that frame down. It will just look funny and it just won't look very nice, and it's not the look that we're going for. So to figure out your last piece width, the way that I'm going to figure it out is that I've actually laid out some of the top of my decking with some spacing, with my spacing, which is about 1/8 of an inch, all the way to the edge, and now that will give me my total width for the last piece. Let's get a close-up of this. So as you can see, I've just chosen my 1x4s, cut some little offcuts, placed them along with my spacing, which is about 1/8 of an inch, all the way along, right to the end. Now it's going to end about here, so I'll make sure that I have some water for drainage back here. So this distance to about here is my total width that I'll need for my 1x6. If you can see, there's a small gap between the two miters, and it's not because the two pieces aren't tight together, they are. What I need to do is add a little curve to the back edge of the miter, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. All you're going to need is a pencil, and put it back far enough where you're not going to get it caught in the blade. And you're going to just right up to the edge. And you can't even really tell, it's just put a nice curve on the back. And I hope you can see this, that there is no gap there.
Okay, as I was doing the top of my decking, I actually ended up tacking it down as I went. Don't do this. This was a huge mistake. I guess I assumed because I was spacing my ends out from end to end with my spacing blocks that it was going to come out equal. No. What I should have done was measured from the edge of the wall to the edge of the decking from end to end to make sure that I was coming out equal. But I guess as the saying goes, the assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups, and this was definitely one of them. So, moral of the story is, measure, don't assume.
To start your stairs, you'll need a bit of information first. You'll need to figure out your total rise. And your total rise will be from your finished floor to the finished floor of the deck. I'll insert a clip here. You're going to need to note a bit of information for your stairs as well. You're going to need to note the material thickness that you're going to be using on your treads, the tread depth. So you're going to have to check in your local area the minimum requirement for that. In my area, it's about 10 inches. And then whether or not you have nosing, which will also affect your tread depth as well. I have nosing around my deck, so that means I need nosing on my stairs as well. Once you have all that information in the back of your mind, you're going to go to what's called a Stair calculator, and I'm going to leave the one that I'm using in a link in the description box below, so go check that out. And then all you got to do is plug in all that information that you've gathered, and it will give you your rise and run, your tread depth, the number of treads on your stringer, the number of risers. There's a whole bunch of information that it will give you. But I would also say just double check with your local code in your area just to make sure that everything does apply to you. When I plugged in all my factors into the Stair calculator, I got a rise of 7 3/16, a run of 11, a total of 3 steps on my stringer, and a total of 4 risers. To transfer all that information onto my 2x12, I'm going to need a framing square and square gauges. But if you don't have those things, or you're missing one or the other like I am, I have a square but I don't have any square gauges, I'm not going to go run out and go get some. I'm going to make a jig. To make a jig, you're going to need a big enough piece of wood to hold your measurements. My run is 11 inches and my rise is 7 3/16, and I'm going to cut out that section. Now that I've got that section cut out, I'm going to join two opposite corners together and I'm going to cut along that drawn edge. You should end up with two triangles at this point. If not, you've done something wrong. The edge that I just cut along is the edge that I'm actually going to attach a scrap piece of wood to, and you've got yourself a jig. I've got my rise, I've got my run. Place it on the edge, nice and tight. Check this out. That stair calculator is awesome. Now that I have all the stringers cut out, I'm going to mark out where they're going to be sitting on the deck. And according to the stair calculator, it says that they should be sitting 8 3/16 down to the top of the stringer. So that puts it for me around about here. And as you can see, I don't have anywhere to mount to. So the first thing I'm going to do is install a backer plate first. Then I'm going to assemble all the stringers together using a cleat method. Then I'm going to install them as a complete unit against the backer board. Right. Okay, so I've been contemplating for the last hour on what to do with these stairs because I'm just not happy with them, how they turned out, the stringers anyway. I don't know if it's the way that I was cutting them. I was cutting them with the skill saw and then finishing it off with the jigsaw, but they've kind of got this slant to them on the one side, and I just spent the last hour with a chisel and hammer trying to chisel that edge off, but it didn't work. And it's, when I put a board on there, I mean, yeah, it's not great, and I'm just not happy with it. And stairs are finicky, and if you're off by 1/8 of an inch, it can cause a tripping hazard. So I've just kind of come to the realization that I'm going to just have another go and recut them, and hopefully they're going to turn out better this next time, because if they don't, then I don't really know what I'm going to do. So this is what I've been dealing with for the past 2 hours, and as you can see, yeah, sure, it looks good now. I took that edge off, but wait, That looks all great there. And then we get to this point. And I'm like, what happened? I don't know. Take 2 for cutting the stringers. Now, last time I had my 2x12s sitting on some plastic sawhorses, and I was struggling a lot with those, so I lowered myself down to the ground. I got myself a new blade for my jigsaw, and hopefully this is all gonna make a difference. What I'm also doing differently this time is that I'm marking each stringer out with my guide that I made. Last time I marked one stringer out and then I used that as a template, which didn't seem to be working out all that well because I started out doing it that way and then they didn't seem to be lining up. So I'm giving this a go. And the other thing that I'm doing differently this time, when I'm cutting right up to the tip and then I'm stopping, and then I use my jigsaw to finish it off. Last time I cut up to a certain point and then I used my jigsaw to the end, and I think that's what gave me that angled edge. Now I'm gonna finish these off with the jigsaw. Last time I cut them to about here and I stopped. This time I cut them right to the tip and I have to finish it off with the jigsaw there. Now that will probably help with that tilting that I got, or hopefully anyway. Next up, the kick plate. Last time I installed the stairs as a complete unit. This time I've installed the stairs without the kick plate in hopes that I might be able to adjust some of the center stringers if needed while I attach the kick plate on. At least that's the way it works in my head. Just giving you a bit of a close-up of what it looks like this time around. And you can see it's a lot nicer along the bottom, even along the top edge. Now I'm gonna add in my posts for the second time around. Then I'm gonna add in that solid blocking to support that picture frame waterfall look that I'm going for the perimeter of the stairs. Now I'm ready to start the top of my stairs, and before I dived into cutting everything, I made a little bit of a mock-up design of how I want it to look. Let's get into a close-up. So this is the general picture of what I'm going for. It's not exact, but you can definitely see how it's going to end up looking like. This piece, which has a 45 on the bottom and 90 on top, fits right in here. Oops. And then this piece that has a 45 on this edge and a 45 going this way will go here. But I've got to mark out the location for this post. Now that I've got the perimeter of my stairs done to create that water cascading effect, I'm going to put the inlay inside of that perimeter next. Let's montage this shit. The railing. Now, if you've seen in any of my shots, you're like, well, why is there pieces of wood going from post to post? And that's just for support because I'm building my deck out of cedar. And when cedar grows, it grows like a twist. And that will be the same thing when it dries. It will also dry twisting. So you always want to add some support to try and keep things in a line if you're not getting to your railing right away. Now that I'm ready for that, I'm going to pop all of these off. I'm going to cut down my post to the correct height. But first I'm going to do a test run because after the stairs, my ego is slightly bruised. And I'm also hoping that I have a little trick up my sleeve to help get them all at the right height. Let's get into this. Now I'm ready to start my posts. I've taken off the support. I've marked out some test runs along my posts. So it's not the actual height, I'm just practicing cutting them down. And I've made up this little jig thing here, which is just 2 pieces of metal with 4 bolts, some weather stripping in there for grip, and then that's going to fit over the top of my post below my cut line, and it's going to act like a railing, hopefully, for my skill saw to run along. Alright, I've been using this jig because my confidence in cutting kind of went down 100%, and I keep getting results like this, and I mean, it's not perfect, but they still come out level when I put them all together. I put a level on this post and that post and all comes out level. But I just wanted to see my cutting skills if I just cut them by eye. And this is how it came out. Spot on. Like this is smooth. So I'm gonna do one more just in case if that was a fluke. And then I'm just gonna mark them out and cut them all. All right, I've got them all cut down. And it's not too bad. The only one that's really kind of, I'm annoyed, is this one right here. It's kind of slanted a little bit, but I'm just gonna leave it because every time I touch something, I end up making it worse. So I'm just gonna leave it. All the other ones are pretty good. So I'm going to throw a 2x4 on top and see how everything looks like together. Alright, if you're wondering what this is all about, I needed to move this post over this way to make sure that this space from the bottom to the top was equal, and same with over here. because it didn't matter if I was going to move this post over or not. This post is nice and straight. So what I needed to do was to move this one over slightly, get this one in line, and I did that by adding a big post here and putting some pressure on it, and it's moved everything over for me. And now I'm just clamping in my middle post, and I'm gonna screw that one down. Okay, I am ready to cut down my posts for my stair railing, which is something that I've been procrastinating for a while. The stair calculator did give me an angle to work with, but when I marked it all out, it didn't work for my style and to code in my area. So I actually ended up having to find my own angles. And the way that I did that was I cut a piece of scrap wood, placed it where the top of the post is going to be, to the bottom of the 2x4, which is what I'm screwing into right here. And that gave me my angles right there. And then to find them, I used a good old protractor, and that told me my exact angles that I was going to need. Hopefully this all works out. I am going to do a few test cuts before I do the actual cut, because I'm really nervous about making angled cuts through this. So I am going to see how that rolls out. All right, as you can see, this one didn't come out too bad, which is my second attempt. But wait, look for it. Look. Damn. And that's why you do a practice run.
So when installing the LEDs, I wanted to make sure that the wires weren't going to get pinched, and I actually didn't want to drill through the posts.
I just want to show you something. Look at this guy. He's looking at that, the wide open area where he's not allowed. And he was so sneaky, he just snuck under the deck while I'm working here, stealth-like.
And continuing on, I actually ended up routering out a section in the side covers of where the wires sat, giving them enough space. This way I'll have full access to the wires and LEDs for easy maintenance and or replacement in the future if needed.
Alright, what I have here is some perforated metal, and my plan is to put that under here where the lights are, so it will hopefully cast a shadow. This is purely aesthetic, so I hope it's going to work out. Pretty simple. If I go straight from this point will go 39 and 3/8. There it is. This perforated metal is 26 gauge if you're curious, and you can normally get it from any local metal supplier or metal shop, or you can order it in. And it cuts nicely with some tin snips. The wire, the moment I've been dreading for, but I think I have a plan. And the plan is that I've created a template with the location of where my wire is going to go and my fasteners. And it kind of depends on the type of fasteners that you're going to be using. I actually have 3 types of fasteners. I have my turnbuckles right here. I have my protective sleeves that will be going through my middle posts, and then I have these connectors right here, which will kind of go like this, and then my turnbuckle will go on like that. Actually, it will go on like, oh dear. Well, somehow it's going to go on like that. Well, the wire goes through there, and then the turnbuckle goes here. So it'll go like that. So I'm just going to place my template nice and center right here. This one I don't need my centerpiece because it's not going through the post, but I do need my top and bottom. I'm just going to go to my mark right here, make sure that I hold my drill nice and straight. And go to the other side of the post. Do the exact same thing, hold it nice and straight. Ow, that was hot. Beautiful, but it's right through, which is amazing. So the template is working out. What I have here is 500 feet of aircraft stainless steel wire, an 1/8 of an inch thick. You can get them in all different thicknesses, but this is just the thickness that I chose. Also meaning that it wasn't the most super expensive, which also means that I hope that it is stainless steel, because if it is, it means that it won't rust. But you know, you never know what you're gonna get for what you pay for. Which never happens. Now, I'm going to leave a link in the description box below of everything that I'm going to use if you are interested and want to go check it out. And hopefully that this is stainless steel aircraft wire. It says that it is, so that's what I'm going for. To cut this down, because it's this huge 500-foot roll of wire, I think the best way I'm going to attempt to do this is clamp it to a piece of wood and then use a grinder to cut it down. That was easier than I thought.
Okay, the struggle here is real. If you have the opportunity to rent an automatic crimper, please do so, because my soul died in this process, and I'm trying to save yours from the same fate.
All right, the skirting, and it is super bright out. You don't have to do skirting if you don't want to. It's just one of those things, if you want to, if you've planned for it, if you have material left over, which I happen to have. So I'm gonna put a skirting on. Swab the deck. There's got to be a faster way to do this. Getting all the crevices in here. I'm hoping I can put this on a roller in a second. I'm just kind of getting the edges. All right, I've made it to this point. I'm ready to put my flashing on. I'm at that 95% finished point. It takes that extra 110% to get anything finished, but we're here at flashings. The rule of thumb being is that you want to create a layered effect. Again, I would check in with your local code area to make sure that you're following the proper requirements, but for me, I put my first flashing on behind my Tyvek paper with G-tape. My drip flashing is now going to go on next behind my tar paper with more G-tape, and then I'm going to put my siding on. Let's get into it. Okay, so to have a flashing on top of another flashing to sit nice and flush, you basically need to do a 45. So just hold your combination square. So get up right to the edge, mark it, about there. Grab your tin snips. Just try not to block anything as I'm filming this. Says I'm in the right spot, but who really fucking knows? Looks like it's clicking nicely. The deck is finally finished. It has been one of the hardest projects I've ever undertaken and pushed me to my absolute limit. But at the end of the day, I couldn't be happier with the end result. It definitely has The modern sleek finish, the steampunk details at the bottom of the post with the black detail. It has the lights for the mood, has that vintage, modern vibe that I was going for. That's all that needs to be said. Let's roll the final shots. We have troll approval.